Unrelenting, vicious, traumatic, Kurosawa's Ran is one of the most vital accomplishments in all of human art, a fulfillment of what many a jealous painter may have desired for centuries, what many an aspirational dramatist, and certainly what dozens of even very accomplished filmmakers would have liked to have composed. Eisenstein, Lean, Herzog, Coppola, all in awe of 1985's Ran, and they would have thought Kagemusha was something prior. Ran is one of the features I would employ to argue that the depiction of film violence is not inherently intended to be exploitative or gratuitous or otherwise entertaining. And more importantly, Ran depicts violence as a potential unforgiving truth of this world, of many individuals' experiences, even this exalted tyrannical warlord, a very firm, resolute response to those who feel as though media must solely enshrine an ideal manicured world, never engaging in violence for confused moral concerns, and not unwarranted when considering how violence is portrayed. How violence is portrayed, you understand, but, incredibly absolute where the depiction of violence is concerned at large. It is an unwanted condescension for those who suffer trauma from aggressive behavior and general putrid injustices that motivates those that demand a sanitization of the media as a larger continuum. To relegate certain titles away from a more widespread exposure, we can have discussions about this. Although to encourage censorship or even to pompously preach against its existence as a moral concern, I would consider this to be a stance emerging from bitterness and hostility at the enjoyment, mature and compartmentalized, fun that adults can receive from media which happens to be violent. And note, I specify media which happens to be violent, distinguished from violent media, which I would also defend, but on less strident convictions. See the video on Suicide Squad 21 for my expanded opinions on this matter. On the side of the old school Christian-inspired Puritans, a want for suppression and to control was motivating these hyenas, but for those on the more grossly self-righteous, secular, social science binaries, I'm bitter that you don't care about your reputation, whereas I'm a prisoner of it. Their anger at the good feelings of others was even more pitifully transparent. Frankly, I think many who lean left question the morality of certain media which contains violence because others who appropriate the left to bully others on allegedly ethical terms have emotionally intimidated them into considering this as an option, neutering all those who once claimed to be about free speech when it suited them in the later 20th century. If you don't care for Ran, unsubscribe, you're not welcome here, I don't even care, finger wag somewhere else, no violence or desensitization to violence is inspired by Kurosawa's Ran. If anything, it is one of the few films to use violence to demonstrate unequivocally the horror of violence. Truffaut loved the idea of emotionally bullying other filmmakers who were working with larger budgets than he ever did. Although he did undeniably have a point, he did not see Come and See, obviously not De Palma's Redacted, but maybe not Ran either, as one of the more, because I think it would stand as one of the more or only effective anti-war films ever released. Some have found reason to act all high and mighty about Apocalypse Now and its intentions, conscious or submerged, but considering the involvement of John Milius on that film, this is to be given some worthwhile thought. Kubrick claimed that Full Metal Jacket was not an anti-war film, not necessarily a pro-war film, I don't believe, but I don't think he intended it to be sort of a work of activism as such, deflecting a prospective Truffaut or neo-Truffaut criticism, of which Paths of Glory was the poster child example of, and actually very, very rightfully so. Ran might not only be Kurosawa's greatest film, it might be the greatest film ever made, and if you're going to get all, I don't know about that, you must be considering these rules, or whether that's very appropriate, we need to be more careful when considering. Look, if a film makes me consider it might be one of the very greatest films ever made, which only a 3 dozen or so do, then I think it may very well be, on my own terms at least, and unless you can write as well about the medium as I do, I don't care what you have to say, and if you're under 45 and not Noel Oakeshott, you don't write better about the medium than I do. Who am I arguing against? I don't even know. Just a bunch of prospective naysayers who I made up in my head. But if they do exist, I'm calling you out. Leave this channel, never watch my videos again, but feel free to come back when you start appreciating Ran, which you will if you decide to be just honest with yourself. Most of you are never honest with yourselves. That's your problem. Well, you try to make it all about problems, so we respectfully pass on that. I only included screen caps of the early half of the film. See the rest for yourselves if you have not already done so.